Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about a stock or what is the stock that Kirby and I have sold in our past and that we regret selling. So, Kirby, I'm sure you know which one mine is. I'm sure, well, I have two actually, but I'm sure you know which ones those are. But what is the stock that you sold in your past that you regret?
Oh, listen now, look, so I'm gonna let you go first. Mine might be a little long-winded, so go ahead, knock yours out. I think I know which one you're gonna say, but let's go with
Mm.
it.
All right. I've got two. I don't know if I could say them both. Um, But if I had to just pick one, I'll say which two of them they are. So it was ExxonMobil and Bank of America. And if I had to pick one, probably I'd probably stick with Bank of America, just because they are obviously a very successful bank. And the price that I had my shares executed at was very low compared to where they stand now. And I don't see Bank of America um, not being able to grow exponentially 20, 30, 40 years from now. Um, so definitely, I think that would be my pick is Bank of America. So I'll leave it there if you have any questions or anything.
Uh, so one question I have, with going with Bank of America, after you got exercise out of your position, and when he's saying exercise out of his position, he's talking about selling call options to produce income over top of the stock, just to bring in income on a weekly, quarterly, or monthly basis. So the question to you is, why didn't you get back in the stock after you got exercise out of it?
So honestly, I think it was just, I want to say it was all emotional because at that time I was still fairly new to the stock market. And the price I got exercised at, I thought was like high. So I knew Bank of America had been at higher prices previously, but I thought that, which I think the price was, I think it was $26. I, if you remember, I'm not sure. I think it was, that's where it stood at. But I thought that was pretty high. So I thought like, okay, maybe it'll go to 30. But what is $26 going to 30 gonna really gain me? That was my mentality at the time, was like
Right.
not really thinking straight onto the fact of like, Bank of America is one of the leading banks in America, so it's like they're gonna keep growing. And come to find out, I think they had ended up reaching, over $50 so per share. So hindsight being 2020, buying at $26 a share would have been perfect, but that was my reasoning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you live and you learn, right?
Yeah.
Mine is by a long shot. It's the my nemesis. I talked about it before. But no crap, there I was, 2012. In 2012, I was still on fire, Dave Ramsey. If you didn't have debt, you was the man. You was the best company on earth. Uh, I didn't understand operational leverage with using leverage or using debt to grow a company. So for me, I was in Afghanistan 2012. I just saw Apple go from 700, like 725 down to 500. That was my line in the sand. I said, if Apple drops down to 500, and this, of course, is split adjusted. Apple has split like three times since then, three or four times since then. But it was at 700. I said, if it drops to 500, I'm going all in. All the extra funds I had. So Apple drops down to 500. I started buying. It dropped down to 495. I started buying. It was at 490. So now at this time, I've used all my available capital I had, which was around 50, $60,000. And I'm in there. I said, oh, Apple's good because it just came from 700. And I was like, Apple's debt free. These people are crazy. They're talking about Apple needs to raise debt to grow the business. I was like, they're debt free and they still have like 100 and some $1 million in cash sitting on the sidelines. Like I said, my ignorance because I was thinking, like, why wouldn't everybody want to invest in a company debt free? Of course, that's when I was 100% on the Dave Ramsey train. Everybody needs to pay in cash, no debt. So ignorance. And then so as I proceed, it's at 495, and I'm sitting there, I'm locked and loaded, ready for it to go back up, at least 50%, just, back to 750, quick $25,000 gain for me over time, but I figured it'll get back there relatively fast because at that time Apple had a low float and then the stock moved pretty well. So then I look up 2 weeks later, a month later, it's sitting there at 425, 410, and it just proceeds to go down, proceeds to go down. I exited a position when Apple was around $4, I mean 400, or it was like at 390. I was like, this is too much to bear. I don't understand. It's a debt-free company. I didn't get it. And then so I ended up selling the shares for a massive loss. And then I believe a month later, that's when Apple, for the first time, borrowed money, took out debt, paid a dividend, did a buyback after that, and then did proceeded to do its first split, months down the road. And then soon they took out the debt, the stock proceeds to go from 390 or 400 all the way to 800. But I was out of it. Because
But
especially when it's like, oh, they took on debt, I was like, oh, I don't want no part of this. Debt's bad, And then it proceeded to go. That's why I always say Apple was my nemesis. No matter if I was trying to trade Apple in the options market, if I was trying to swing trade Apple, and what's the guy, Jim Cramer? He always said, you don't trade Apple, you just hold it. But again, at this time, I was in Afghanistan. I didn't know. I knew who Jim Cramer was, but I didn't have access to TV. I did have access to internet, but I didn't have access to TV to hear him say that. And but yeah, so and then fast forward now, Apple done did 3 or 4 splits since then. That $50,000, because me, I'm a long-term holder. That $50,000 could have been well over a $500,000 now. But I still have Apple now,
yeah.
My wife, she invests in Apple. I mean, I still have Apple, in mutual funds and ETFs and things like that. But the individual stock, that's been my nemesis for a long, long time. But that's the biggest regret on stocks. I mean, of course, I can have some other smaller ones, but Apple is the biggest regret that I had buying and then selling it for, I'm not gonna say no apparent reason. I had a reason why I sold it, but it was pure ignorance because I didn't understand financial statements and I didn't understand the power of leverage and the power of debt when it comes to business, especially in the public traded space.
Yeah, it's funny because I think the both of us have the same reasoning for selling. We're just not being well versed. The only difference though is that I didn't really have an excuse because I was learning under you. So you were trying to figure things out by yourself, whereas me,
Right,
I was just being irrational, completely irrational.
right.
But yeah, I mean, and then ExxonMobil, that was another good one. Ended up selling at 38 and it proceeded to go to like 115. So that was another one. Um, but yeah, those are our stocks. But with all that being said, guys, if you like the video, hit the like button. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and we will see you guys on the next one.